Hey beer lovers, and welcome to another episode of the Craft Beer Channel. Some of you may recognise where I am, maybe recognise this big red facade behind me or the amazing array of taps. That's because I'm in one of the most famous craft beer bars in the country, and that's North Bar in Leeds. Now this isn't my prime destination, but it is a tradition that you stop off for a pint of Cannonball. That's a 7.4% IPA from Magic Rock. And it's the start of the finish of a very long day I've just had with the awesome North Brewing Co, which is a brewery owned by the same guys that own North Bar. So they've been there since '97 when they founded the bar, watched the whole craft beer revolution happen across the world and within the UK, and finally in 2015 setting up their own brewery with an amazing coconut porter and a great West Coast IPA. And from there they've really flourished and make some really incredible beers now, as well as having some of the best bars in the UK. So today I chat to Christian, one of the founders and also the head brewer, a really talented brewer called Seb, about their Kolsch, their coconut porter, and a brand new style that's coming over to the UK. It's been in the States for a little while. And I'm winding down now with this 7.4%er because it was a really interesting, intense conversation which we talk about lots of different things and see a great brewery at work and a brewery that's only going to get better as they expand. So listen in. Sorry the sound quality is not perfect on this one because I've already broken the amazing microphone that our Patreon's got, but we'll get another one and everything will be tip top again soon. Prost, enjoy. So I'm here with Sebastian, head brewer, and Christian, owner and founder, not only of this amazing brewery, but also of one of the best bars and the first best bars in the UK, North Bar. Talk me through, I guess, firstly, North Bar. Tell me about that, how that came about, and how it then morphed into a brewery.
North Bar started just as a desire to have something in Leeds that was a bit different, a bit more inclusive, a bit more suited our needs a bit more, mine and John's. John had lived in Manchester and seen a lot of the interesting bars around there, and we sort of fell into what was then called specialty beer before the C word came around. We were very lucky that we had two really exceptional distributors on our doorstep with James Clay and Vertical Drinks, and so we often acted as a bit of a springboard for their brands, and we were very lucky to have some of the first. We had the first Sierra Nevada on tap in the UK, we had the first Erdinger in the UK, and that was working very closely with those people to bring those brands through and showcase them.
I mean, when I first got into craft beer about a decade ago, one of the questions people would ask would be like, "Have you been to North Bar?" And that was me living in London. So that I think that's a mark of sort of the national reputation that North Bar had for. I mean, you say it's all down to distributors, but you guys know what would work, and taking a punt on breweries like Sierra Nevada, which obviously is mad to say because they're probably a million barrels by that point over in America, but over here, an unheard of brand, and you guys picking that up so early was hugely important for the craft beer scene. Yeah. So we were talking earlier, and North Brew was something you'd wanted to do for quite a few years, and it had never quite happened.
I think about 2003, 2004, we were loving the beers that we were getting in, and we thought the next natural step would be that we had a hand in that and opened the brewery. But then the reality of time, money, and getting distracted, opening bars, we never really got around to it. We looked at a few ideas and opportunities in the early days, just through circumstance it didn't ever come to fruition. And then
you found Seb playing ukuleles for kids.
Just wondering.
Just for the ukulele back.
Do you know how to make beer?
George Formby. And Seb had been Cuckoo Bring at the time.
Yes.
We'd been buying beer off you.
Yeah.
You know, you could taste Seb's beer then as a Cuckoo brewer and know that we had a finesse. There was definite clever hand with ingredients and interesting beers as well.
Well, as we discuss what happened from there, let's have some of the beers. So we're going to start maybe with your Kolsch, which is one of your cool beers.
Yes, yeah, we've been doing this for quite a while. It's just kind of, it's the beer that I think if I'd go back to time and time again if I want to just have a beer at home or just relax and switch off, and that's my kind of go-to beer.
Yeah, it's your end of the day beer, the hard-earned beer. Yeah. Which is what lager is amazing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Cool. Yes, it's grassy, lemony, kind of honeyedness that I think you get from German Pilsner malt.
Yeah.
And then just a hint of fruity, appley, peary kind of thing, which is from that ale fermentation, I guess.
Yeah.
Before the lager fermentation.
Yeah, just that slightly extra kind of bit of aromatics on the nose. I mean, I think the only thing which would be slightly untraditional is I think it's a little bit more, a touch more hoppy than maybe some Kolsch's, or some of the more mass market ones anyway.
That's why the Germans might raise their eyebrows. Yeah.
Everybody needs a go-to beer, something that you don't have to think about. And I think the same about going to the pub. Sometimes I want to experiment and play and talk about the beers that I'm drinking. Sometimes I just want to talk shit.
Yeah, to shut the fuck up and drink beer. It's just to talk about anything but, Yeah,
and I think when you've got a go-to beer, it makes that a little easier to do sometimes. So if I can sit there and just drink Transmission all night, it might be a shorter night than usual, but if I can just sit there and drink Transmission and not worry about analysing every single drink that I've got. I know that sounds like the wrong thing to say, perhaps on a beer channel.
No, I mean, I can't remember who said this to me, but he said, as a brewer, his favourite word to hear in bars with his beer on is "same again, please." And there's definitely some truth and some happiness to that. When I say "same again," it's a nice feeling. You're like, nailed it first time. Cool, right? Well, if that's a shut the fuck up and drink beer, our next one is a talking point because it's a triple fruited gose. This is the kind of beer that we're starting to see in the States, sort of the sour version of New England IPA, like ultra fruity, ultra drinkable. But obviously it's a goser. It's salted, potentially coriandered. What do you guys do? Because you're one of the few guys doing this in the UK at the moment.
Yeah, well, like I say, I think it's the sour equivalent of a New England IPA of let's just take the ingredients and just turn up to the max, isn't it? And put as much as we possibly think we can get in there. It is a traditional gose base with the addition of lactose and then a lot of fruit. In short,
this is guava and mandarin.
Guava and mandarin, yeah. So this one does have coriander, salt, and then a base of just Pilsner malt and wheat, and actually probably could sneak a bit of oats in there as well.
So there should be lots of body and sweetness, but also tartness and
so we're just going to go with that balance.
Fruit.
Going with that balance of sourness, sweetness, fruit. The saltiness gives you a bit of extra body as well. You get a little bit of the kind of orangey flavour from the coriander seed as well, which I think kind of works well with the mandarin.
It's one of those beers that takes forever to swallow because your mouth fills with saliva again. So you just like... But it's a heady experience, isn't it? Like, it's kind of all-encompassing, like a sour sweet or something like that, where you're just like... And it's just all up in your synapses and in your nostrils and in your mouth and down your throat. It's the opposite of a Kolsch. It's all you can think about when you're drinking it. Wouldn't it be wonderful if this kind of style reclaimed the sugary, what do they call it?
Alco pops?
Alco pops! That's how craft I've become. I'm erasing any word that isn't craft. Yeah, wouldn't it be great if we could replace it? I mean, obviously that's more expensive to produce and incredibly difficult to produce.
Yeah, people would have to shell out a bit of cash for it if they wanted to go and drink 6 of those.
And if you saw somebody straw pedoing that, I think I'd be a bit annoyed.
You think you're saving money on the ingredients list with the hop bill coming down, but then the amount of fruit that Seb's chucking in, and it all just goes racing back up.
So it comes in like puree form in some giant packet.
We've been buying in big barrels of it actually, like big 200 litre drums.
Like the things that you melt bodies in.
That's a side benefit.
So that's helped your serial killer career no end. Right, so that's the amount of fruit that's going in.
Yeah, several of those.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of fruit. Yeah, I mean, it does pose a few kind of technical issues in the brewing. Obviously, you want the sugar in the fruit to ferment out and not stay in the beer and then re-ferment in the can. And that's something we try and avoid.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's a kind of re-fermentation process as well, which is can be interesting. But yeah.
I mean, it does come out. It smells exceptionally sweet, and there's the lactose there that's got body sweetness, but it's not. It's not a sweet beer. It's not cloying whatsoever.
No, it's not like, I mean, it's not the kind of vanilla-y, milkshakey IPA kind of sweetness at all, is it? It's
no. I hate that.
Yeah, I also
milkshake IPAs. I don't.
Gross,
don't get them. But this I'm on board with. So this final beer is actually the first beer I tried of yours at a warehouse party, isn't that cool, in Manchester.
Very cool.
And it's rare when you get a brand new brewery that you do a double take on a beer, because usually they're still dialing it in and that kind of stuff. And I thought it was stellar. And I don't think I heard from you for about a year because you sold all your beer locally. So I was going and I started to get my hand back on it. So tell me about this one.
Yeah, like I say, we brewed it. It was one of the first beers we brewed in the new brewery. It's 6.5%, so not too strong, just kind of fairly sensible strength. Coconut and coffee porter.
Yeah, it's great. I love that. It's so coconutty. You don't like the aroma. It's quite muted. The coconut. It's coffee and chocolate, and then
I think what Sub's achieved with this one, that sweetness isn't overpowering.
It's a very coffeed finish. It's like a filter coffee. It
does kind of dry it out with coffee actually. And it's funny, the coconut. It's interesting. Before you put the coconut in, the beer is fairly dry, and then the coconut really sweetens it up somehow. It just gives it that kind of thick, kind of luscious mouthfeel, and then the coffee dries out a bit. You know, they kind of balance each other out. Yeah.
So when does the coffee go in, and when does the coconut?
Well, they go in at the same time actually. We used to just put them in big nylon bags, kind of almost homebrew style, and just kind of chuck it in there and put it in the fermenter and leave it to sit for a week or so. Now we have a hop cannon, which we
turn to a coconut cannon.
It's a coconut cannon. It's very rarely a hop cannon. It's,
a lot of fruit and coconut and stuff going around
it. Is. So that's actually really good because that moves the beer through the coconuts.
Right.
So instead of it kind of just sitting in a big bag, and I kind of worried that the beer wouldn't get the coconut in the middle of the bag. And so I think that's helped us get a bit of extra coconut flavour. It's toasted coconut as well, which I think the raw coconut, it smells almost a bit like sun cream. It's kind of just got that kind of quite kind of light sweet flavour. Whereas when you toast it, you start getting more kind of nutty kind of savoury flavours out of it, which I think works quite well.
And the brewery smells amazing. On toasting day,
I bet it does.
It's toasted on a huge paella dish.
So house toasted coconut.
It's a laborious beer.
So as we said at the start of the video, you guys are looking to expand. You've got a place next door that you're going to get some of these big boys into. How's that going to change what you produce?
I know we've talked a bit about doing, continuing a range of goses, and
so like almost trying to have a custom big fruity gose coming out.
Yeah.
That's great news.
Yeah. More IPAs, more kind of modern IPAs, more interesting, strong stouts. I'm looking forward to doing more specials.
Yeah. We're opening a tap room next month in Leeds, and that'll be the first of a brewery tap room where we showcase our beers.
Because the North bars, they have a couple on, but it's a bar
right.
predominantly.
Absolutely, I think it's important to remain true to its roots in having a wide range of great beers. And yes, we really believe in the beers that we make. And so they'll always have a presence there, but won't command the bar.
Yeah.
Whereas at brewery taps, we will have a big range of our beers.
Well, guys, thanks so much for having me.
Yep. Absolute pleasure.
Thank you for the delicious beers that have been coming on for 3 years now. And I'm going to go probably have a pint of Cannonball at North Brew.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you.